Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of SpiritualiTEA. I'm so glad you're here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about consciousness, right? What is consciousness? What is all this talk about consciousness? So consciousness is our ability to become aware of our internal process with an awareness of what is going on externally. So consciousness is the awareness of our internal and external, and bringing the two together. And there are different states of consciousness. And when you think of humanity and its perpetuation of challenges, pain, suffering, war, struggle in relationships and families, governments, businesses, I would liken that to the first three states of consciousness, which the first one is survival, right? If we're stuck in survival mode, we never feel like we have enough, right? That's where greed comes in, power, control. There is a drive within the human psyche that it never has enough. So in the feeling of never having enough and that void that sits there in that belief, there's this constant drive for more. Power, greed, power, and control. So that would be the survival mode. The second stage or level of consciousness would be the relationships. Right? Relationship driven consciousness, where one is always seeking love. They may be in the best relationship, they may have loving and supportive friendships, but it never feels like it's enough, and they're constantly seeking to fill that void within relationships. And many people may spend their entire life never being satisfied in the consciousness of love, constantly seeking, never satisfied or fulfilled. The third state of consciousness would be called the self-esteem part. So someone who is always seeking approval, someone who's always seeking accolades and praise, right? And there's never enough. Like they want all the attention, and it's feeding this need within them and trying to fill a cup that will never be satisfied with immense praise, approval, recognition. Then as we move into our spiritual awakening, right, and when someone is really on the path of spiritual awakening, there's a time of transformation, right, where we're no longer seeking the praise and approval or love or power or money or control, right? All those first three levels of consciousness, you're at a point where you recognize that all that you need already exists inside of you. And that's the point of transformation. That's a pivot point of awakening. And then there are steps in that transition, right? In that transformation. And the first is where we begin to explore our soul, right? We have this real calling, this inner calling of soul exploration, where we know we have an ego, we know we have a soul, and this point of transformation of consciousness is when we start focusing on more of what the soul is, has, and wants to bring forward. That next level of consciousness would be about identifying the motivations of the soul. What are the soul's natural talents and gifts? And we dive a lot into that in the spiritual programs and also in the spiritual practices and coaching that I offer, where I help others really identify what are your innate gifts of your soul. And when you start energetically and consciously connecting there, It's like a light goes on that can never be dimmed. And the practices through the 33 pillars help us really cultivate those natural talents, those natural abilities. And there's this awakening energy that rises and starts to fuel your being into the path of its soul purpose. So you can deliver your gifts, so you can co-create with your gifts. Then the next level of consciousness is this interconnection. All of a sudden you acknowledge the divinity within your own self, right? You have this soul actualization and realization and amplification of energy and consciousness. And then that ability to see that in others, even when another being may not be in their highest resonance or in their own soul aligned mission and purpose and awakening, but the ability to look beyond that and to see how they are contributing in some way or form and making a difference, right? We're in this stage and level of consciousness. We really want to contribute. We want to make a difference. And then in that final stage of awakening and evolution and consciousness is this deep desire to be of service. You are serving the soul. You are serving Source, God, whatever your word is, and serving the highest potential of your being. All of a sudden, you have this realization, or maybe not all of a sudden, maybe it's a gradual experience for you, but you have a deep understanding that your gifts, your light, your consciousness is here to serve. It has a purpose. And that is my understanding of consciousness and that evolution that occurs. And through the 33 pillars and working in these pillars of consciousness, which are streams of source consciousness being powerfully delivered into the earth and into the earth plane so we can evolve as humans and a collective consciousness of beings, we have opportunities to move out of those ego needs of wanting, needing, and perpetuation of denser suffering and pain, and we can move into serving the light of our own soul and serving the light of source consciousness. So I hope you found this helpful. You can subscribe, hit like, share, and I really thank you for being here. And remember, keep shining, beautiful one. The world definitely needs your light. Blessings to you and hope to see you soon.